Hello, my name's Dr. Alison Hardy, and I'm here today to challenge maybe some of your thinking or maybe help you reflect a little bit differently about what you see as the value of design and technology education, and also what you see as the intention of design and technology education. I think these are two different things, and I'm going to draw on some of my own work to talk about it and share with you today. You can agree, you can disagree, that's absolutely fine, but hopefully there'll be some food for thought. But before I go into my thinking and what I've read and my research, I just want to give you a bit of an overview about who I am, so then you can think, is this person got any credibility to be talking about this? So you can skip through this if you'd like. I'm not going to check up on you, but here's a QR code where you can find out more about me. And you can get links to some of the different things that I've done and that I do. But the overview of me is that I shape the design and technology curriculum through the consultancy research and the way I work with policymakers. I've written some key texts, such as Learn to Teach Design and Technology in secondary schools, and I've got the podcast. So if you're thinking, I've heard that voice before, that might be where you've heard me. And I do research about what people say the value of the subject is, and what the challenges are in the subject. And as I said, I advise different organisations about the subject, and occasionally I go and do some keynotes internationally and also within England and across the whole of the UK. So that's me. I hope that kind of gives you some confidence that I kind of might know what I'm talking about today. So this is my last slide that I'm going to share about this. So don't expect PowerPoints with lots of whizzy things. You're just going to listen to me, hopefully, for a few minutes. So as I said, the two things that I want to talk about is how do we value design and technology education, and what is the intention of design and technology education. Now, I've put up there two further QR codes that take you to two different podcasts where I've talked about these in more detail. And there's some other podcasts that I've done talking about both of these things in more detail. So I'm just going to give you a snapshot. So how we value design and technology education. So I've done quite a lot of research on this. I've interviewed people, I've analysed curriculum to sort of see what's implied within it. And what I've identified, that there seems to be 5 themes that come across, and this is where I'm going to forget them. So do forgive me. So the first one that comes across is the economic and utilitarian value of design and technology. What we learn from it that we can use in our day-to-day lives, and also what we learn from it that we can use in our careers. So that might be some of the very practical skills, or it might be about design thinking. So there's all of those sort of aspects that we talk about. The value of this subject being on the curriculum is because it empowers young people to look after themselves practically in terms of at home or at work. Then the second thing that people talk about is they talk about it teaches pupils skills that are needed for the 21st century, like creativity, thinking skills, research skills, teamwork. So that's another really strong category. Now, one of my issues around that category is that it's doesn't give it anything unique about the subject. So because other subjects might say that they do those things. And then just to flick back to that economic and utilitarian one, the economic one, well, that assumes that the young people in our classes are going to go into careers related to design and technology, but some of them aren't. So we have to think about, so what value does this subject have to those who don't? So that leads me on to the third one, the third category of values, which is about creating and making designs. This is the actual activity that happens in design and technology where children design and make things. And it's about the activity of designing, resolving problems, looking at context, identifying what could make things better for people. And it's about this realisation of our ideas from our head into something physical. Now that physical we know can be digital, it doesn't have to be a physical item. So that's the third category. The fourth category I've labelled with kind of a bit of an academic title, which is technological determinism. Now, technological determinism, what does that mean? That means that what we teach in design and technology is that children have an understanding of how we shape technology through the way we use it, through our interactions, through our design of it, but also how technology shapes us. Now, the obvious example is we take a mobile phone and when we look at it, we put our heads down and it starts to shape our bodies. But I can talk about, I keep taking my glasses on and off, these are readers, but I wear contact lenses. Contact lenses are a technology and they shape the way I view the world. And so in design and technology, people were talking about that technology, that those lessons in D&T helps children to understand how technology shapes how they view their world, how they interact with the world, but also how the world interacts with them. And then the final category of values that came out from my research is what people see as the personal development. And I started to link a little bit on this when I talked about creating and making design, because that physicality, I haven't got anything around me that I've made at the moment, normally I do, is that it's this thing that is made is a representation of us, and so we can see our own thinking in this thing in front of us. So that's a personal development of seeing that we are beyond our bodies. It's also that it gives a personal development about ways of learning, that it again about embodied learning and that physicality as well as the cognition of the subject. That development of resilience, we know when we teach children things that are practical or designing or whatever, whether they're primary, early years or secondary, they can do it, they practice it, they get better at it, and that gives them that resilience. So those are the 5 categories: economic and utilitarian, developing transferable skills, creating and making things, personal development, I've got this wrong way around, and technological determinism. And all of us value the subject in many different ways, and if we saw those as a bar chart, we might kind of have different patterns of those. I've done some research around that, so how do we measure what people value of the subject. Then that leads me on to the intention of design and technology, because we have to think about the curriculum as an object. And in England we have a national curriculum, and I know in Scotland there's developing and changing what that curriculum might look like, and internationally I'm starting to lead a project where we're comparing national curricula for design and technology like subjects to see what that means. But one of the things I'm really interested in is about the intention of design and technology. What's the aim of the subject? There's values and there's the aim. And what the research says, it talks about 2 things. It talks about the development of children's design and technology capabilities. That's their ability to interact and change and shape the made world. And that grows over time as they increase their knowledge about the made world, about materials, about processes, about ways of thinking, about designers, about how designers work, about how things work. There's masses of it, but it's all about the growth of their design and technology capability. And if you want to read anything in particular about that, I'd strongly suggest you look out for the work of Richard Kimball and Kay Stables. And then the other aspect, which I think is the intention of design and technology from what the literature said, is that ability to engage critically with the made world. So this isn't so much about shaping and changing it, which relates to D&T capability, but their ability to critique and engage with the made world. And that comes in many different forms. So that's what the research says is about the intention of design and technology. That's a real whistle-stop tour. I've gone on a little bit longer than I expected, but hopefully that's given you some food for thought to challenge what you think. You may agree, you might disagree. That's absolutely fine, and it's highly likely. So, but hopefully that's giving you some ways of thinking, and have a listen to those podcasts. And as ever, please let me know what you think. You can find me using that Linktree QR code, or just search Alison Hardy via the internet. Anyway, thanks very much for taking the time to listen to this. I hope you found it useful.